Okay, I'm in West Yellowstone right now, and we're just getting ready to head into the park. And so I'm gonna give you some tips for visiting Yellowstone at different points along the way. So we'll try this, see how it goes, and let's get started. First tip is to take a family photo at the park sign as you enter the park. I know it might be a little cliche, but we have a big collection of these photos. We enjoyed it. It's kind of a little tradition of ours, going all the way back to the 1980s, so it's kind of fun to look back on all those photos. Just stop, take a moment, and take a photo. Tip number 2 is if you have a 4th grader like I do, then you get a free parks pass for a year. So you can get on the website, the National Park website, and claim your free parks pass if you have a 4th grader. Tip number 3 is to get a map from the ranger. When you come into the park, they're going to give you a little pamphlet here, which is kind of a permanent thing. They print the same thing every year for years. And then they give you a newspaper guide for that particular year, which has some tips for the year. For example, this one shows that this road is closed in 2020. If you unfold the pamphlet, you'll see that there's a big map of the park. You really kind of need this because you don't have cell phone access in the park, so you'll be referring to this quite a bit unless you're really familiar with the park. Tip number 4 is to go with the flow. You are going to get buffalo traffic jams in Yellowstone, like we got here.
Just go real slow. Come back in the road. Good.
Here he comes right at us. Hey buddy, hey buddy. Tip number, what are we on, 5? Is to know which wildlife to stop for. Here we saw some coyotes. In fact, almost hit one right here. Came running out in front of us. Coyotes are definitely something you want to stop to check out. Also bears.
Hurry, oh, there they go.
Black bears or grizzly bears. Here's some mom with her cubs running across the street. Wolves, for sure. Big bull elk. And if you see a big herd of buffalo that you're close to with calves, that's a good one to stop at. Sometimes you're forced to stop for a bison that's walking right next to you. But I've seen people looking at bison off in the field, like one single bison. That's not really stop worthy. Okay, tip 6 is to not take teenagers with you to Yellowstone. Tip number 6 is to visit the waterfalls as you drive through the park. There are 5 waterfalls on the lower loop that are just a stop and a walk out. You don't even need to hike to them. This is Gibbon Falls right here behind me. And so there are at least 5 on the lower loop that are just a park in the parking lot, walk out, and at least 2 on the upper loop. Okay, we are in a major traffic jam. This is not a wildlife traffic jam, I'm sure. And we've been here a while, so we're just playing some football now. Tip number 7 is to consider bringing a bike to Yellowstone. I had never even thought about this until this trip, but there's a biking path that goes behind Grand Prismatic Spring, and there's a biking path that goes around the upper Geyser Basin around Old Faithful that'll allow you to get to see some of the geysers a little more quickly. So there you go, consider that. This has been a pretty fun option for us. Tip number 8 is to stay on the boardwalks. This sounds rather simple, but there have been 22 recorded deaths in Yellowstone because people got too close to the springs, or even some of them even intentionally jumped in to save their dog or something like that, or to take a bath, thinking it was kind of like a hot tub. Stay on the boardwalks. Number 9 is to consider packing a lunch. There are picnic places throughout the park. You can find them on the map. You can get food at places like Canyon and Old Faithful and Grant Village, Mammoth. So you can eat at restaurants, but occasionally they can be a little difficult to get to at the right time of the day. And they might be really busy, a little expensive. So this is just another option that we like to do, and we generally can generally find a picnic spot when we're out and about. Okay, number 10 is to Consider not taking 12 children with you to Yellowstone. It gets a little crazy. Number 11 is to consider taking 12 children with you to Yellowstone National Park. It's crazy fun.
Well, we're playing Bison Baseball and Bob's like, Dennis has got a big log.
Tip number 12 is to not take it personally when a park ranger rips into you, because it will happen. We've been chastised on this trip for running on the boardwalks, for being literally 5 inches off of the walkway, off of the pathway, not a boardwalk, just a hiking trail. For one of our kids was kind of hanging out the window a little bit looking at wildlife, and they got on our case there. So the park ranger, no, I'm not trying to bash on the park rangers, because they do a wonderful job here, and they get into that business to be around nature and all that, which is great. But then they end up getting a park like Yellowstone, and there's just a ton of visitors, a lot of knuckleheads that they have to deal with, and you know, they're trying to do their best to preserve the scenery. So some of them are a little anal maybe, so just roll with the punches there. Tip number 13 is just to enjoy the moment, put the camera down, and appreciate what's around you. Okay, tip 14 is to look up. You'll see some amazing birds at Yellowstone. You'll see ravens, osprey, sometimes you'll see bald eagles. You never really know. You know you're in Yellowstone when you see at the gas station a raven's nest. Okay, tip number 15 is that if you see wildlife right next to people and people are going right up by it, record. Just hit the record button in case you get an animal attack, and then put it on YouTube. Look, there's like a big old crowd watching, just hoping for that buffalo to attack.
There it is.
Oh, baby. Okay, hit record. Oh my gosh. That is wild.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. Like I say, when you see, just in case there's an attack, you've got to record it.
Even if there's not an attack, it's fun to watch people hightail it out of there. Wow.
Oh, that's a miracle of that.
Hey, look at that guy.
Did you see the people running? It was
pretty. Oh, yeah. Okay, for tip 16, I got my wife doing it.
Hey, Yellowstone is windy and dry. So when you come here, make sure to bring lotion, chapstick, sunscreen, water, because you're gonna start to dry out.
Charge your phone.
And leave your kids at home. Tip 17 is to visit Hayden Valley, the Hayden Valley side of the park, either way early in the morning at dawn or in the afternoon at dusk. You can see a big old elk behind me here. It's about 6:30. We're actually really not at the prime viewing time yet, but so maybe consider getting up way early and getting into the park, or visiting or staying way late. Yellowstone does not open or close. It's open 24 hours a day, so you can come in and leave whenever you want. Okay, so my wife's helping me out with tip 18 again, and this time no kids to interrupt.
All right, so tip 18 is to dress in layers at Yellowstone. Right now it's around 6:30 or 7, and I'm pretty toasty. It's the hottest time of the day. It's a little over probably 75, but this morning it was 39 degrees. So you're dealing with a 40-degree swing throughout the day, so dress in layers.
Okay, tip 19 is to allot about a half hour from main intersection to main intersection in Yellowstone. There are 8 main stops in the park. It takes about 30 minutes to get from stop to stop, give or take a little bit based on the mileage and the traffic. We're back in West Yellowstone. It was a whale of a day. It was a long day. We saw 5 waterfalls. We saw a coyote. We saw elk. We saw bison. Fantastic day. 2 more tips to round it out. Tip number 20. Consider doing a junior ranger if you have children. Normally they give you these booklets. It's coronavirus time right now, so they're really not giving them out. You have to print them online. But I always bribe my kids with a stuffed animal from the visitor center if they complete their junior ranger badge. If you're an adult, you can buy one of these national park passport books, and when you go to the park, you can go to the visitor center and you can stamp it with a cancellation stamp the date that you were there. So I'll put a link to that in the description below. Okay, tip number 21. The City Creamery homemade ice cream. Finish out your day with a nice homemade ice cream. My favorite flavor is that they have is double chocolate orange. It is delicious. I got a shake today, but usually I get a cone. Double chocolate orange at the City Creamery. That rounds out our 21 tips to visit Yellowstone all in one day.